This week we're on the road in Katona, New York to meet the winners of the Utility Bill Bailout Contest. They're getting a whole house full of new windows and doors, and you're getting a whole half hour of great tips for your home. This morning we're at a house that's just buzzing with activities all up and down the street. There's all kinds of work trucks because this is the location of the home that belongs to the winner of the Utility Bill Bailout Contest that was sponsored by Geldwin Windows and Doors. Now, as the winner of the contest, this homeowner receives brand new energy efficient windows and doors installed throughout the house. Now, they haven't been in this house very long, so they have a number of other things on their to-do list, including electrical, painting, and some other things they want to do to the house to make it even more energy efficient. Let's catch up with them. Jeannie McCabe and John Reese are newlyweds who bought this house just 5 months ago. It's located on a hillside overlooking the village of Katona, New York, just an hour or so from Manhattan. They knew it was a fixer-upper when they bought it, but the house had character and the location was great. They've done some work themselves and talked to a lot of contractors over the last few months trying to improve the home's appearance as well as its functionality and efficiency. The furnace, for example.
Clogging it up, so now it's way off. It's way off the mixture.
So we're burning more oil than
Yes.
we need to be burning.
Yep, you're sending hotter gases up the chimney.
It just needed a good cleaning, but these old single-pane leaky aluminum windows were letting out much of the heat it generated.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's my favorite one.
So the timing of this contest couldn't have been better. It's a little difficult to show off their newly renovated kitchen while it's covered in plastic, but it's a small price to pay for the improvement the new windows will make. Well, you guys have a lot more going on in your house than just the windows and doors replacement. What are some of the other things that you're planning on doing during this week of activity?
Oh, this week we took the week off so that we could, be here to monitor what's going on. But also we're doing a lot of work on the rental that is downstairs.
Now, is this your first house?
Yes, it is.
Oh, is that right? Well, I understand you got a bit of a shock when you first pulled that first utility bill out of the envelope.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
It was $1,100.
Oh boy. How much square footage do you have here?
About 2,200 square feet. We don't know what an oil bill should be, so we just thought it was bad, but we didn't know how bad it was.
Now, John, you've been doing a few things yourself around here as far as things to kind of help the energy efficiency things. What are some of those things?
Mm-hmm. Well, I put the gasket covers in the outlets, and I tried to insulate the windows, old windows, as best I could with tape and weather stripping and even plastic.
Well, these type of windows, this is some of the existing windows. I mean, single pane, and then just the way those things were built back then, leaked a lot of air all around, I guess. And I know you had that problem out here with all this expansive glass. You got a beautiful view and everything, but I understand you're talking about the thermal curtains.
Yeah, we had layers of curtains up hanging here, and we had to keep them closed so we could keep a little bit of heat in the house.
And I hear saws over there and hammer drills over there, electricians, everything else. So big difference is going to take place here in the next 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
The windows on the lower level have already been completed, and now the crew is working on the upper level. That's a little trickier because setting up scaffolding on uneven terrain,
Because as you go higher, you're going to feel really uncomfortable.
is tedious and time-consuming. In addition to that, 2 of the windows on the street side of the house are being enlarged, which means some reframing is necessary, and that requires some rewiring to accommodate the changes. Replacing a whole house full of windows is no small undertaking, but this crew is steadily transforming this house, one opening at a time.
You may not be lucky enough to be replacing your windows like Jeannie and John, but there are some things you can do to your existing single-pane windows to make them more energy efficient.
And that's what Alan and I are doing. We are removing the old caulking.
You are, I know.
Yeah, somehow I got volunteered to do the removal. We're taking out this old caulking and we're going to come back with a fresh bead of new caulking.
Now, what the whole point of this is to seal any gaps and cracks that can allow that outside air in, and more importantly, that expensive conditioned air out.
Right, and that's going to save you a lot of money. But here's a couple things you need to keep in mind. You can use a caulk softener to help you get rid of some of this, and also just make sure that your caulking is outdoor approved.
And as long as you're doing this much work, go the extra effort, clean out all the dirt and debris out of the windowsill, and make sure there's a good layer of weather stripping at the bottom.
You did the hard work, didn't you?
Paste wax isn't as popular as it used to be for protecting wood surfaces, and there are two main reasons why. First, today's high-strength polyurethane finishes are water-resistant and extremely durable, but also paste wax can be a little tricky to apply. If you put it on too thick, it won't dry and it'll leave behind a sticky surface, and if you put it on too thin, of course, it won't provide any protection. So here's the trick. Take a piece of cheesecloth, cut it about 10 or 12 inches square, and make sure it's double layer. It has to be two thicknesses of cheesecloth. Then scoop up a bunch of paste wax and just put it right in the middle. What you're going to do is make a little pad of wax. You need a pretty good glob here, maybe a golf ball size, a little bigger. And then just twist the ends together, like so. What you end up with is a pad of wax, right? Now, in this way, you can use it in a circular motion. Usually it takes a few seconds for the wax to start coming out, but there, see that? When you get that nice surface like that. Now this is great for protecting finished and unfinished wood surfaces, but also leather and metal too.
This week we're in Katona, New York, looking in on the installation of the grand prize in the Utility Bill Bailout Contest. Brand new energy efficient windows for the winners, Jeannie and John. They've been steadily making improvements to the house since they moved in a few months ago. But these windows not only look good, they'll save the couple a bundle in energy costs in the months ahead. Even after Jeannie and John finish all of the work they're planning on doing to the house, there's still a lot of work that's going to have to be done out here in the yard. But once it's all complete, it's going to look fantastic. You know, there's a lot of work taking place today, partially because we got beautiful weather. Also, we got some great installers, but none of that would matter unless you have the right window that's measured properly and delivered out on the job in a timely manner. And the guy that's making all of that happen is our friend from Geldwin. Matt, I'll tell you, things are just running very smoothly.
Yeah, we're really pleased with the way things are going so far.
You know, there's thousands of homeowners out there, you and I talk to them all the time, that are thinking about replacing the windows in the house, but what are some of the things they need to ask themselves before they take on that project?
I tell you, I get that question a lot.
Yeah.
And really, it comes down to three things that you need to think about first. The first one, obviously, being budget.
Oh, yeah.
You have to know what you can or can't spend ahead of time. There's a lot of great incentives with tax credits and things, but it's still going to be controlled by what you can and can't afford.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The second one, obviously, is going to be, are you going to do it yourself? There's a lot of weekend warriors out there these days that want to tackle a window replacement, but can't necessarily handle all the pitfalls that you can run into on a job like this.
Yeah, you'd hate to end up at the end of the day with a big gaping hole in the side of your house there.
I've seen it happen more than once.
I bet so.
And then lastly, I would say just the architectural stylings of a house. You know, you want to make sure that you're picking the right product that's going to fit the form and function of your house and keep it, looking correct.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, that's definitely happened here with the way these windows blend in. And hey, this isn't easy in making a window look like it's an original window, especially when you're talking about a stucco or any type of masonry surface you might have.
It's really not. In fact, this one we're under some scaffolding, but we can walk around the corner and take a look at one right over here.
Okay, well, it's pretty cool, though, the way it's tied right into the stucco. And, of course, the finish itself's in pretty good shape here. That always helps, but hey, we've got a cat looking at us here.
We got a little friend there.
Now, but how does all of this go together? I noticed the guys were working on it earlier. A pretty interesting system.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the problems that you run into, like you said, is you don't want your insert window or a replacement window to look like a replacement window. So what we've done here is we've taken the standard window and we've put a four-sided trim kit around it, cut to fit in and fill in the gap at the masonry opening here. Then the contractors have done a great job to go back around, seal this up so it's nice and weather tight. They've thrown some insulation in behind there. Should act as a real benefit on the cost savings as well.
These guys pay painstaking attention to every detail, which is exactly what you want with this kind of project, and those details will translate into even more dollars saved in the years ahead. Because every opening is different, each installation is a little different too, even from one window to the next. The windows are manufactured consistently, so they require some modification to match up with the variations in each opening. Tom and his crew work in pairs around the house, methodically removing an old window, prepping the opening, and fitting the new one in place. In addition to replacing all of the windows in this house, they're also replacing all of the exterior doors. And this looks a lot better than what was here before. They still have the side window and the transom window to do, and 2 very large glass sliding doors that we'll look at next, right after Jody shares with us this week's best new product.
Well, summer is upon us, and if you've gotten your flower beds or your garden in place, chances are things are going according to plan. Everything is looking great, but of course you need to maintain those flower beds in your garden. So how do you do that? You need to cultivate the soil. You need to break it up so that nutrients and water can get right down there to the roots. And Black & Decker has come up with a tool just to do that. Now this is their cordless cultivator. It runs on an 18-volt battery, and you can see it's got 2 tines here that will help break up that soil. Now they actually turn in opposite directions so that it reduces your chances of getting weeds and things tangled up in there. Also, if you've got to get into tight spaces in between your plants or your vegetables, what you can do is remove one of the tines and you can just use one to get right in there. It's very lightweight, it only weighs about 9 pounds, and this is a perfect tool to have this summer to make sure your plants and your garden grow perfectly.
This young couple is getting a house full of new windows and doors courtesy of the utility bill bailout contest they recently won. When you tackle every opening in a home all at once, it creates a little bit of chaos for everyone, especially the installation pros who are trying to turn this project around in just a week. Now this is definitely a sign of a professional, someone that covers up all the furniture to minimize anything getting dirty or damaged during a little remodeling project. And that guy that's putting it all together is hands-on contractor Tom Walsh. Tom, now what's going on here? Your guys are all around the house putting in small windows and you get stuck with a whole wall of glass here. What's going on?
Isn't that always the way? The boss gets the biggest job. And as a matter of fact, what I thought was going to be easy became a bit of a pain in that the beam here has sagged significantly by about 3/4 of an inch. What we found was that the door was really put on with essentially about 4 screws. When the door slid closed, the jambs shook and it didn't seal very well around the gaskets.
Now, you know, a lot of people think that you just can't have an energy efficient glass door unit. A lot of times people will take glass doors out and they'll replace them with French doors or something like that.
A sliding door is as efficient as a French door. Really, in a sense, sometimes the sliders are just as good or better because they've only got one sealing point. You don't have the hinges and the 2 doors working against one another. You've got a solid door and the other door closing up against it.
I see a few of your shims already in place here.
That's right. We make it plumb and level, and once we dealt with the sagging floor, we put this in, and now we've got a minimum now of three sets of shims and screws, and more than likely we'll put one in between that as well.
Now you were telling me about a little surprise you found,
Yes,
and no matter how long you're in the business, you always run across something you've never seen before. Share it with us.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I did. When I was originally measuring for the doors, I was looking at how I was going to get the trim off, and I wanted to get a look at the rough opening to see if I had any room to get the stock size door in. So trying to pull off what I thought was trim, and in fact it was not. What I found was that the way the house was built, it was kind of like a rabbited stud is what I would call it. And so what it does is it's kind of smart in that it saves a lot of materials. One side would accept the sheathing, which is texture 111. The other side would accept the door or window flange. And so that's pretty much minimize the amount of framing needed for the house.
Boy, you had to really think about that when you had all the doors measured, and then now that you're installing them, in order to fit everything in just right, you got to consider that as well.
It's a little tricky.
Well, you're just trying to have the doors under control here and everything, but what about these guys up here?
Well, these guys, their days are numbered. They've finished wasting energy. So now it's time for a new transom with insulated glass, much like the rest of the windows. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to remove the glass, remove the stops, and install the new windows within those existing openings. Because again, we can't remove this trim. This is the frame of the house.
The transom windows are actually just pieces of glass set into the opening with wooden stops nailed inside and outside to secure them.
So they just literally glued to the rabbited 2x4, they just glued a piece of glass?
Silicone, a piece of single pane glass,
So it's not really a window at all, really.
It's a homemade window that is completely inefficient.
But the good news is that they can easily be removed. The bad news is that they also can easily be broken. And breaking a piece of glass that large, working overhead, can really be bad news. To fit within those rabbited studs that Tom was telling us about, the nailing flange on the new window has to be trimmed down a little bit. The opening is coated with sealant before the window is installed and secured with long screws. These fasteners are covered with those trim strips Matt talked about. On the inside, they're adding jam extensions since the old trim was what held the glass in place. These wood frames will come out flush with the inside of the wall so Tom's crew can install the new clear wood trim to finish off the interior.
2, 3, 4 pieces of horizontal, 1 continuous piece there, 1 continuous piece there. Got it. Okay, it's gonna look great.
Later, Jeannie and John will stain this to match the exposed beam overhead. But for now, it's just fun to watch these guys wrap up this job with some first-class craftsmanship.
You know, Ellen, if you don't have the budget to replace all of your windows in your home to make them more energy efficient, there are some things that you can do around your house that won't break the bank to make sure you save some money.
In fact, we picked up this setback thermostat at the home center for about $30. Very inexpensive and easy to install. In fact, there's only 4 wires, right?
Yeah, and you did it like in 5 minutes. But sometimes there are less wires, so make sure you pull out the manufacturer's instructions on how to wire up your new thermostat.
Now, the benefits of having a programmable thermostat like this, the fact that it's going to control the temperature in your home for you while you're away. Let's say, Jody, you're at work.
I'm at work.
Summertime.
Yes.
AC, you don't want it running all day.
No, there's no need.
So you've got the thermostat here that's going to pop it up to say, let's say 80
Ooh.
during the day. You don't want it to be 80 degrees though when you get home, so before you get home.
You can program it to definitely knock back down to a more comfortable temperature for you.
In fact, some studies say that you can save up to 25% on your entire heating and cooling bill just by having one of these in your home, which is pretty green thinking.
Ooh, I like that.
If someone were to give you this glass of water, how would you react? It sure does look pretty disgusting, and I know I wouldn't drink it, but pouring it down the drain is nothing short of a green crime. This is the kind of wastewater that comes from your shower, bath, and laundry. It's called gray water, and it represents up to 80% of the wastewater in your home. Reusing this water for irrigation is one of the smartest things you can do. There are about 8 million gray water systems in use right now in the U.S., and even though some people have expressed a little concern over the health issues of using gray water in irrigation, there's never been any recorded illness related to them in the past 60 years. To play it safe, never water edible plants with gray water. And as with most technology, newer, more efficient systems are being developed right now. So if you want to think green, think gray too. Our visit to Katona, New York is complete, and so is the project at John and Jeannie's house. The new windows and doors have not only made it more energy efficient, but they've also made it more attractive, which should only get better as they finish their painting chores. You know, sometimes you hear some pretty negative things about contractors, how they'll start a job and then they won't show up for a few days, or the job takes a lot longer than they said it would take. Well, that's not the case with Tom Walsh and his crew. They've done an incredible job in such a short amount of time, installing all the windows and doors in this house in less than a week, and the quality is perfect. Thanks, Tom, for letting us kind of tag along with your crew and show how a job should be done. Now, if we can get the homeowners, Jeannie and John, to finish up their part of the work, everything will be perfect. Hey, thanks to Geldwin Windows and Doors for making the utility bill bailout contest such a success. I'm Danny Lipford. We'll see you next week here on Today's Homeowner. Well, John, you ready to get back to your regular job? Next week on Today's Homeowner, we're taking the crew to the country to tackle some do-it-yourself projects that are perfect for the great outdoors.